Hi, everybody. JB back again. This is episode 24 of my Did You Ever Wonder series. Today I want to talk about, as I said I would earlier, about Albert M. Byrnes, the man who built Fayetteville. Uh, Mr. Byrnes was born in Dublin, Ireland in 1849. You can see his dates down there. And he didn't come to the United States until he was 17 in 1866. Interestingly enough, his parents had moved to California in the 1850s. He was 1 year old and they left him. I'm assuming, I don't know his background that well. I'm assuming he must have stayed with a Grammy or an aunt in Ireland. But anyway, he came to the States and joined them. Anyway, he was in Fayetteville by 1871. So in his still mid 20s. Uh, anyway, so I wanted to, each of these episodes seems like I'm dedicating or talking about some of one of them. This is also for Gary Coover, a friend of mine, used to be the head of the Historic District Commission. He's a huge Albert Byrnes fan. So maybe Gary will like this one. Anyway, basically all I'm going to do is show you all the stuff he's credited with building in the town. And a lot of it's gone, a very large amount of it's gone, but still, he built all of the early public schools for the white kids. Remember the black kids of the school, Henderson was built by people who came from American society into Fayetteville right after the Civil War. Anyway, so he built what was called Northside originally, Washington School, in 1885. It was there from 85 to 31. And originally it faced Lafayette. Well, now it faces Highland, but in the first version, it faced Lafayette. So that's the old Washington. And then he built the original Jefferson, which was called Southside until it became Jefferson, 1890. Notice how different it is from the Jefferson we have today. It's got this portico over here. It sits right at where Church drops down and hits South Street off of the square. There's a building there right along Archibald Yell Boulevard. There's a building right there in the corner. That's exactly where it stood on the south side of right at the corner of Archibald Yell now in South. And then this was a hard one to get. He also built the original Leverett, which was there from 1899 to 1939. This is the only picture I've ever been able to find of Leverett. It's from a U of A annual, an old Razorback. And that sits over there, Davis Hall, I believe it's called now, where my friend Charlie Allison works. That's where Leverett stood in that day. That's at Garland and Maple on the northeast corner. And anyway, so that's the best shot I can get of the original Leverett. So I built all those. And remember from earlier episodes, this was my favorite picture from the backside of Fayetteville, approximately 1886, maybe even a little earlier. And the big building there up here is the Van Winkle Hotel. And the smaller center, right where the Ozark Theater is now, that was Albert Byrnes' planing mill. You can see nothing's there, the county courthouse in there, the city jail, or county city jail in there. I think hiding somewhere near, I think you told before, maybe should be hiding. There's the 1885 jail. If it's not there, then this is even before the 86 that we got listed. And he did build the old county jail, which is still there on College Avenue, 1896, 1897. In 1904, the World's Fair was held in St. Louis. I've told you this story before. A.F. Wolf, a very successful entrepreneur, purchased the Arkansas building and had Mr. Byrnes take it apart piece by piece, ship it to Fayetteville, and build it up on Mount Nord. It sat directly across Mock Street from where the Fulbright building is. And it was up there until 1939 when it had decayed and they tore it down. It's tragic because it was a beautiful building. Remember I told you there are pieces, I believe, there are pieces of it in a retaining wall on Locust Avenue between Dixon and Spring Street and on the east side of the street. You can see those if you go by there. I got numbers on them. I'm just sure it's there. Gary Coover never agreed with me, but I believe Bob Beeson said it was, and I'm going to go with Bob. Okay, and he built the original Fayetteville High, which would be this center part. The north annex was built in 25 and 27, the south one by E.V. Bird. But this center part, that beautiful part there, Mr. Byrnes was the builder for that. Up on the university, he built Buchanan Hall, this big monstrous building. That was a men's dorm, as I recall. He was there from 1888 to 1937. And he also built Hill Hall, which was only torn down in 93. A real quick thing on that, one stone from Hill Hall is on the east side of Mullins Library, at street level. And if you go up near the entrance on the east side of Mullins, you'll see that stone with a sign saying it came out of Hill Hall. So he did those two up in the university. And I want to show a couple of houses that he built here in town. 305 North Washington. You can go by and see these. 327 North Washington. I think that's at least partially a Queen Anne style home with that little circular thing there. I'm really good at architecture, you can see. Anyway, those are his and they're still there. Isn't that wonderful? 88 and 89, 1888 and 1889. And I want to tell this story about Father Pietro Bandini and Mr. Byrnes. I think what bound them together was they were both the Catholic faith. Anyway, when Father Bandini was getting old and ill, Mr. Byrnes drove him down to Little Rock for treatment, which I always thought was something. And he let him and Father Bandini stayed with the Byrnes for a while. And when he passed, they held a wake there for him. So it's kind of a cool story, showing the humanity of Mr. Byrnes. And he's over here in Evergreen in a family plot, the Byrnes family plot. And there's his particular stone. You can see the Irish cross there on the left of his burn, indicating his Catholicism and his home. And then I wanted to do one more thing here that Tony Waffle and I have been looking for years, going, okay, we're Mr. Byrnes' home, and it was at 220 East Lafayette at Willow. And that house there, that ranch style kind of, it's a duplex, is exactly where his home used to be. We go, oh my gosh, of all the places and things you wouldn't have Mr. Byrnes' home. We never could see anything. And unfortunately, recently, Dee Lamb showed me a painting that's being hanging in the headquarters house, which I've been in a million times and missed it, which is actually a drawing of Mr. Byrnes' own home. And here's a picture of it right here. And look how different that looks. I really think the bottom two parts of that stone wall might be the same retaining wall that Mr. Byrnes had for his house. But anyway, you can see it would have been a grand and beautiful home, as you would expect Mr. Byrnes to have. Anyway, here's some description of it. 228 East Lafayette, the residence of Mr. Byrnes and his wife, Mary Elizabeth McCoy, built in 1872, and it was taken out in 55, which gives us an approximate date of that ranch house. Makes sense, right? And it was painted by a granddaughter of the Byrnes. And the watercolors by a son-in-law of them. So anyway, so if once again I get to the end, here we go. And I think that's all I had to say about Mr. Byrnes. And if I can get this thing to, I do not know why this has such a hassle to get those commands up there. But anyway, sorry for complaining. Anyway, so that's episode 24 of my series, Did You Ever Wonder? About Albert M. Byrnes, the man who built Fayetteville. Given credit for 300 to 400 structures in this town. Absolutely remarkable. A person that we have to remember. So once again, thank you. Thanks for hanging with me. Talk to you soon. Our next episode is going to be early history of the Fayetteville Library. And after that, another episode on street names. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.